right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. As Beth noted, my name is Kelly Wylam, and I manage the statewide SBIR STTR assistance program for the state of Pennsylvania. Our Apex accelerators are invaluable to the Innovation Partnership Network as they can help provide assistance if you are interested in submitting an SBIR and STTR and you're working on your registrations, which are mandated for all 11 agencies and can be somewhat cumbersome and or confusing. Beth and her team and all of our Apex accelerator centers are able to assist with some of those registrations that are aligned with SBIR and STTR. So I just wanted to give a shout out there to how the Apex centers interact with Innovation Partnership, interact with SBIR, STTR, and can possibly be of assistance to you if you're looking to pursue this type of funding. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? We're going to cover overview SBIR, what I like to call SBIR STTR 101. So the purpose of small business innovation research and small business technology transfer programs are to stimulate tech innovation in the private sector, strengthen the role of small business concerns, SBCs. You're going to see a lot of acronyms here again because we're dealing with the government. Government loves to use acronyms that nobody knows or can remember on a regular basis. They're looking to increase commercialization from research results at academic institutions of higher education or research institutions, encourage participation of socially and economically disadvantaged or women-owned businesses, rural businesses, veteran-owned businesses, pretty much in the category of what they call underserved and underrepresented participants. This is not an alternative source of funding for basic research or academic research. We know our folks like to get really creative, but this is really for small business concerns. They're interested in moving their technological innovation forward closer to commercialization. Additionally, the STTR, which is Small Business Technology Transfer Program. I know it's not an exact acronym, but it's close enough. That's what they said. Foster technology transfer through cooperative R&D between small businesses and research institutions and institutions of higher education. So we will move into and discuss, and I will explain the differences or the primary differences from SBIR between SBIR and STTR in the programs. Okay, so why would you consider SBIR and STTR funding? Number one, these are all grant programs. There are some distinctions between the form of agreement to get your funding, but they're all grant funds, which means they're non-recourse and there's no repayment unless you do something against the rules that is egregious and wrong. Then it's highly problematic and there is repayment and probably jail time. So that's not a good thing, and we don't want to see that. How much is available? There's over $4.6 billion of SBIR and STTR funds available from the 11 issuing agencies that participate in both of those programs. Why do we note there's over $15 billion in other R&D funds? Because SBIR and STTR is sort of like a gateway funding program. As opposed to a gateway drug. It's not a gateway drug, but it's a gateway funding program. So that once you have proven that you're capable of going through the gauntlet of preparing and submitting a proposal, getting it awarded, doing all of the reporting mandated by the agencies, phase 1 and phase 2, which we'll talk about, then you're viewed as less of a risk as a small business, which may be an entrepreneurial startup or an existing small business that may not have been around or operational for too many years. And obviously that is a high risk level sort of business. And that's what SBIR and STTR funds. Excuse me a moment. There's not a loan, so there's no repayment, again, unless you do something really egregious and wrong. It provides recognition, verification, and visibility. So one of the things that I noted is if you're successful with SBIR and STTR funding, this is something that investors or potential investors find valuable because you've learned to read and follow instructions, you've learned to take direction, and you've weathered the gauntlet, again, of these federal R&D assistance programs, which is no small feat. And there are tons of rules and regulations relative to these programs. And that's sort of why I have a job, to help demystify some of this. So they're also a potential tool for leveraging and attracting other sources of investment, like even Ben Franklin Technology Partner funding. Again, if you've been successful with SBIR and STTR, it looks like you're a bit of a lower risk than, let's say, a company that does not have SBIR or STTR successful funding. So what are the differences between the SBIR and STTR programs? What is the SBIR program? The SBIR is the Small Business Innovation Research Program, and it's administered by 11 different federal agencies for the purpose of helping provide early stage R&D funding to small tech companies. Or individual entrepreneurs or researchers who form a company. Of these 11 agencies have various needs, flavors, and recipes for their SBIR program. So when people say SBIR and STTR, they usually say it as an umbrella term. And the reality is, because there are 11 different agencies offering SBIR, there are really 11 different SBIR programs. So this, again, is one of those things that is relatively nuanced, and each agency that is offering these funding opportunities, they have their own culture, they have their own flavor, they have their own recipes for baking their cakes. So that's how, again, we provide at the Innovation Partnership insights depending upon which agency you're looking to submit to. For instance, NSF, National Science Foundation, they like to see aspects of your project work described as project tasks in terms of your proposal. So the DoD, for instance, they want to see your deliverables, what you're going to deliver. And National Institutes of Health, they want to know about the specific aims you have for your project. So using that right agency-specific language as you prepare your proposal is something that we help coach on, and tends to be important because it shows that you've done your due diligence, you understand what the agency is looking for, and hopefully you'll be more successful. So the 11 different agencies that offer SBIR funding have extramural budgets over $100 million, and they're required to set aside 3.2% for SBIR. Agencies that have over $1 billion, and you'll see in a moment, if you just use logic a little bit here, thinking about the federal agency fundings, if we were live, I'd say who was in your opinion, what is the largest federal agency that gets the most funding out of the general budget? And everybody would be able to say DoD. So yes, DoD is has the most funding available for these programs. So what is STTR? Again, Small Business Technology Transfer Program. It's 10% of the size of the SBIR program, but it's very similar for the use of funds and executing of projects. It involves a cooperative research agreement between an research institution, which is a college or university, federally funded research laboratory, or nonprofit research institution. This is a mandated collaboration for the STTR program. STTR created as a means of moving the technology developed at the research institution into the market where it can benefit customers and consumers, and both the public and private. There are 6 agencies right now that offer STTR funding. So there are 5 agencies that are their general budget that they receive with their extramural R&D funding is too small to dictate having as an STTR program. Okay, so here is a snapshot of the 11 different agencies that are offering All of them offer SBIR. The ones in red offer both SBIR and STTR. So, and you'll see on the, so no presentation would be complete without showing you statistics about these programs. I'm sorry. But yeah, the amount of funding available from the agencies are pretty much as follows. This is from fiscal year 2022. And here on this side, excuse me. This side, you can see those are the larger federally funded agencies. And you can see DoD, $2.3 billion they have available for SBIR, STTR funding. And then you can see by contrast, the SBIR only agencies have significantly less allocated funding for their SBIR program. So again, if you're ever wondering, or somebody says SBIR and STTR, we just think about the larger funded agencies that offer both SBIR and STTR, and that makes logical sense. Program structures. So really, the SBIR and STTR programs are structured into 3 phases. Phase 1 is a startup phase, and it's really for developing proof of concept or technical merit and feasibility of your idea, concept, or technological innovation or application. Generally, I know awards of up to $275,000. That's what NSF awards for phase 1. There are some agencies that offer $80,000 as a phase 1, and it can go from there, from $80,000 up to $275,000 from 5 to 13 months of work. Phase 2, if you're successful with phase 1, phase 2 would be your next opportunity to move your technological innovation forward. These awards can be up to $1.7 million. I've seen awards from National Institutes of Health at like $3 million. So there is substantial funding available at the phase 2 level for the real execution of project work that must be completed to move that technological innovation forward. Your phase 1, we can question, is $80,000 really going to achieve anything in today's world? Probably not as much as we'd hope it would. But for phase 2, you really can't argue with those ranges of funding, because that is definitely enough funding to achieve the work that you plan to perform. Only phase 1 award winners are considered for phase 2 in most instances at most agencies. Again, there are exceptions here and exceptions there, depending upon what we're talking about. So when I cover this information, there's always going to be except for the most part. Fast track and direct to phase 2 are offered by larger federal funding agencies. And fast track is really the combination of phase 1 and phase 2 work combined into one proposal. A note on this is that since Innovation Partnership has been assisting clients for a pretty long time, over 20 plus years, we've helped some clients with fast track and direct to phase 2. Now, Innovation Partnership really assists first-time applicants to these programs, or applicants who have submitted their proposal and been unsuccessful. We're not really here to assist the clients who have millions or billions of dollars in SBIR and STTR awards. We're really here to help first-time applicants or those unfamiliar with the process and haven't had billions of dollars in success. If you've had 1 or 2 awards and you'd like to use our assistance for your next SBIR STTR proposal, we're fine with that. It's just there are a lot of companies out there across the country, not just in Pennsylvania, that have, get 20, 30 SBIR awards a year. And that's not really a good use of our taxpayer dollars for the Innovation Partnership to assist those clients that are full, well, and capable of succeeding at winning a proposal all on their own. So back to the fast track and direct to phase 2. A little disclaimer there was about the first-time applicants. We have never had a client have success that's a first-time applicant with either of these two mechanisms, fast track or direct to phase 2. Most of the agencies that are offering those options prefer to see previous SBIR award success from the client that is submitting the fast track or direct to phase 2. So, that being said, we do not assist fast track and direct to phase 2 clients at this time. Okay, we can talk about it. If that's a mechanism that you were looking to submit to, but we really encourage our first-time applicants to go the conventional route of phase 1, then phase 2, with submitting proposals for each of those 2 phases. Now, phase 3, they say it's part of the program, and in the instance of Department of Defense, there could be plus-ups. They call them plus-ups, basically extra money added after you complete your phase 2 to bridge the gap between fully commercializing your product or service or technology or innovation. So they have that, but they don't really call it a phase 3. Phase 3 is considered to be actual commercialization, i.e., you're taking what you've done and you're putting it on the market, whatever that market is, selling it direct to customers, selling it to physicians, whatever your product or service is, or contracting directly with the DoD, or directly meaning as a prime contractor or a subcontractor to a prime. So really, phase 3 encompasses commercialization in brackets, because if you are contracting with the DoD, then DoD is your customer, whether you're a prime or a sub to a prime. So still, phase 3 is the commercialization phase, and there are really no SBIR or STTR grant funds available for that phase 3. So phase 3 is really your go-to-market phase. I'm going to pause there and take a look at the chat and see if there's any questions. Feel free to type in questions if they come up as we're talking, and Beth will break in and stop me and ask the questions then, okay? Because I know if we get to the end, a lot of people forget what they wanted to ask. So you're more than welcome to type your question into the chat and I can address it then. Okay, so this is just a visualization. A lot of people have different learning styles. The other one was a lot of words on one page, right? This is a little more graphic in its representation. Phase 1, execution of project can be 6 to 12 months. Phase 2, this is really on a high level discussion like what we're having here about SBIR and STTR. The only commonality across all federal agencies that I have found is that every agency that offers a phase 2 opportunity for funding, the project execution period is 2 years. So that's the only commonality. I mean, they all have other bells and whistles and other demands in their opportunity, their funding opportunity. So I didn't even mention that. How did these topics get to you? How did they get out there into the world? Throughout the course of a year's cycle, whatever that year may be for that agency, it could be a federal fiscal year, it could be a calendar year, it could be totally made up in terms of a yearly cycle. So like NIH, National Institutes of Health, they will open their omnibus federal funding opportunity for SBIR and STTR sometime in June. They will release all the topics for that omnibus opportunity. With that omnibus opportunity is associated with 3 deadlines in that year cycle. There will be a deadline for submitting a proposal on September 5th, January 5th, and April 5th. So unless there is some modification or addendum for clarification of that solicitation or funding opportunity, that stands for an entire year cycle. Other agencies get their topics out there by, like DoD, every few months, they're going to issue an opportunity. It could be an open opportunity with no topics in it. It could be a Navy opportunity, it could be an Army opportunity, it could be a SOCOM opportunity. So DoD is actually pretty confusing if you haven't worked with them previously. So we try to help coach you on how you interact with the DoD, just like Beth and everybody at the Apex centers. Tried to give some coaching points on how they like to be interacted with versus how they do not like to be interacted with. And one thing you don't want to do is not interact correctly with the agency prior to submission, because Department of Defense has internal personnel that review and provide feedback on those SBIRs. So other agencies have external review panels, which they're less influenced than if they're an external review panel. If they're internal review panel to review your proposal and you've interacted with them and for some reason you haven't made friends with them, that's probably not that good for your opportunity at that point. So it's just a little insight again, how very different these agencies can operate when it comes to SBIR and STTR.
Kelly, sorry,
Sure.
we got a question in the chat. Amy wants to know can phase 3 funding come from overseas? I know that you had mentioned that there's no funding at your level. Can that come from overseas?
So since it is the commercialization period and you've ended your contract and or agreement for grant funding with that agency that funded you, you're commercializing, you can do whatever you want. But if you're getting SBIR money, there are rules and restrictions about the participation of foreign entities within the context of the SBIR and STTR project. So let's remember that SBIR and STTR is a United States federal government funded program that is funded by our tax dollars. The intent of the program is to develop and commercialize technological innovations for and in the United States of America. So that being said, if you're operating here and you want to take foreign investment for your phase 3, you're not obligated to not do that because you're no longer part of the SBIR program and there are no grant funds that you're operating under at that juncture. So you could take investment from anybody at that point. Hopefully that answered your question. So let's talk a little bit about the program eligibility. Who can qualify for SBIR? You must be a codified small business. And what do I mean by codified? So there are registrations that you have to do within the state that you live in to have an operating small business. Pennsylvania, you would have to register your business name and those sorts of things. The federal government needs you to register your business as well. So your business should be registered, as a business able to do business within the state that your business exists, as well as with the federal government. The reason this has to occur, and we coach on this well in advance of when you have to submit your federal proposal, because there are other systems and registrations that demand your FEIN number and the name of your business. So, and your FEIN and your federal, your FEIN, NAICS code.
UEI, UEI and cage codes.
Yes, I was just thinking of all the codes. But if you don't have a codified small business and you're not registered to operate the business, that ends up getting sticky and causing problems. So if you're interested and you don't have your business codified and registered as a business, then you need to do that. Even if you don't do anything with it, at least you have that under your belt. So the business needs to be greater than 51% American owned and independently operated. It needs to be a for-profit business, which means no 501c3s, no nonprofit entities can qualify for these opportunities. There may be other opportunities, foundational opportunities, but SBIR and STTR is for for-profit small businesses that are in the United States. The principal researcher that's designated must be primarily employed by the business concern at the time of award. That is how it's written. the legal language of how it's written, we want you to be employed by the company well before time of award. Again, having all of your ducks in a row, having all of these business related bells and whistles completed well in advance before submitting your federal proposal is to your benefit. So again, we help coach you through that process of the things that you may need to submit your actual federal proposal. 67% for SBIR, 67% of the project must be executed by the company, and 33% can be executed by third parties, which can be researchers at universities, a university, a research team at a university, a contractor, a consultant, an independent individual that is a consultant that can fall into that 33%. The company itself that is submitting the SBIR, I didn't mention that either. The company is always, must always be the applicant on the forms for submitting the SBIR or STTR proposal. So if you're contracting with somebody, the contractor is not going to be the applicant. It's you, the company, that is going to be the applicant. For SBIR, that must be the 67% of the project that must be executed. That's if you're planning to use anybody else to work on the project with you. Many of the projects can be 100% done by the company, and there is no contractor or 1099 employee or university researcher involved. So if you want to collaborate and need assistance and partnering with third parties, you can do that up to 33% of the executed project work. It also encourages research partnership, and the definition of a small business for the federal government for those purposes is less than 500 employees. So there is no arguing over that. That's what a small business is by the federal government standards. STTR qualifications, again, these two programs are different. And here's some of the distinctions. The proposers must meet certain eligibility criteria to participate in the STTR program, and that includes mandated joint research with the institution of higher education or research institution or government nonprofit research institution. So 40% of the project work must be executed by the business, and 30% of the work minimum must be executed by a nonprofit research institution. The remaining 30% can be split between the two, or you can have a non-research institution, third party, like I just described, a contractor, a consultant, or things like that. But the PI may be at the university or from the small business. It's not stipulated, but it depends upon the agency. So for instance, National Science Foundation mandates that the PI may not be at the university. It must be at the business. So again, those are differences between the different offering agencies. Here's a word about the PI. The PI must be primarily employed by the small business concern. They cannot work full-time for another employer. So we have a lot of folks that do work at universities and have a full-time employment contract agreement with that university or research institution. Full-time is full-time. And everybody says, well, I can work on this on my weekends. I'm not employed on the weekends by the institution I have free time. No, a 40-hour work week is called a 40-hour work week. And then that's what you have, a full-time employment agreement with that research institution or institution of higher education. So what needs to occur is if you're contemplating being the PI for the company and you're employed full-time with the research institution, you need to ask for dispensation from your employment agreement with that research institution for the duration of the project execution, which is an SBIR or STTR project. Sometimes the university rules and regulations are a little more stringent than even the SBIR and STTR rules. So it's very important to get, if you're employed by a university, full-time to get the university's blessing and okay that you're capable of playing the role of PI on the company side if that's what you're doing. Different agencies have different rules on the percentage of time and work that must be allocated to the project work itself. So again, we help with this. You know, you're going to be submitting one proposal to one agency, and we have enough time to focus just on the agency that you're interested in and dig deeper into the rules and regulations and the linear processes for that particular agency and how they want you to write your proposal and when you need to submit it by. So research institution eligibility for STTR participation needs to be located in the US and meet one of the following: nonprofit college or university, public or private, nonprofit surgical hospital, or federally funded R&D center, no government-owned and government-operated collaborations, or federal labs. Oops, sorry about that. Went too fast there. Government-owned and government-operated is what GOGO stands for. I'm really making a mess of this now. Let me move forward here. I probably shouldn't use that wheel. All right, did that. Program differences. Beth, any more questions? Okay.
Nope, we're still clear.
All right, so here's another slide that shows the differences between SBIR and STTR. Phase 1, 5 to 12 month execution of project period. STTR 6 to 13 months. Phase 2, the reason again I have that in red and bolded is because it is really the only commonality across all 11 federal agencies. Minimum and maximum small business concern participation in the actual project. And we see here that STTR, the PI can be at the research institution at all agencies, but NSF, I already noted that to you, and some areas of DoD. And we would know that depending on what agency or branch of service or National Institutes of Health center or institute that you're submitting your proposal to. Department of Energy for STTR, the PI can be at the research institution unless also submitting a proposal for SBIR funding, in which case the PI must be at the small business concern. So it even gets a little dicier when we get into, are you submitting one proposal or two, and are they both SBIR or both STTR? So it says, again, bringing out the highlights of what the differences are between, if you remember nothing else about the differences, you should remember this. STTR has mandatory participation by a nonprofit research institution. STTR, you can have participation with a nonprofit research institution. It is allowed, but it's optional. Okay. A little bit here about agency differences, grants versus contracts. And I know Beth will appreciate this, and my other colleagues at the Apex centers will appreciate this. So contracts, we're talking about the form of agreement that you would be signing to receive your grant funding. It's all grant money. Okay, we don't want to confuse anything and say that you have a contract with the federal government and they're a customer for phase 1, because that's not really the case. However, that being said, DoD is a major contractor, right? And as we noted, you could end up, once you're successful with your SBIR, STTR, and you move it towards a commercializable use, you may be contracting with the DoD. So what DoD decided is the form of agreement that you're signing to receive your SBIR STTR award is actually a contract. And what that does is it puts you in a position as a company, as you move through phase 1 and phase 2, you've already signed all of their contract related materials so that you could slide right into a prime role contracting with the DoD or a subcontractor to a prime, because you've signed all of their agreements that deal with contracts. So the form of agreement you're signing with these procurement type agencies that want to deploy what you've created, what you've researched, the project that you've worked on. They want to use it. They have a problem that they're solving, that you're solving for them. So that's why the agreement you're signing takes the form of a contract for those agencies. The other agencies use the form of agreement, which is a grant agreement. And these are for agencies like NIH. Now, NIH does have a few contract opportunities throughout the year, but for the most part, 90% of their funding for SBIR and STTR takes the form of a grant agreement, NSF as well. And why this would be is these agencies are never going to purchase your solution. They're not. They're looking for, as part of their mission and focus, philosophical, is this moving the science forward? Is it for the betterment of whatever sector specific area that your solution is in? Is it going to be better, cheaper, stronger, faster? But those agencies like NIH and NSF, they are not going to ever be your customer for the most part. And I don't want to be 100% in my totality when I state something, because there are always exceptions. There are always exceptions to all of these things, but for the most part, the NIH and NSF are not going to be purchasing your solution. They're funding it to move that space forward. So grants versus contracts, again, contracts are agency specified topics, DoD, Department of Commerce, Department of Transportation. And again, if we use logic here, let's think of new material to fill potholes, for instance, with the Department of Transportation. The federal government manages and has lots of roads. They have the forests, national forests, and things like that. There may be a lot of potholes. Department of Transportation might want the best solution in the United States for the most economical, the fastest curing and drying to fill their potholes. So DoD, Department of Transportation, may seek to purchase the pothole filling material that you've innovated around. So again, they will have that as a topic for you to respond to. The grants are more broad topics, and they're more, so if somebody says we need a diagnostic tool for childhood brain cancer, we could have 50 companies that are all attacking the problem differently and responding to that particular topic area. Some could be using light waves, some could be using piezoelectrics, some could be using dyes, injectable dyes. Some could be using sound waves. NIH doesn't really care how the investigator is solving the problem, just that it is scientifically feasible and compares to current state of the art and improves upon it and solves the problem that is being brought up as a topic. So therein lies the difference. If anybody has a question on the difference between contracts and grants, again, the basic understanding that we need to have is that it's really the form of agreement that you're signing to receive your SBI or STTR dollars. The implications are the ability to contract with the agency as a customer in phase 3 eventually, or not being able to interact with the agency as a customer, such as NSF, for instance.
Kelly, we have another question in the chat.
Sure.
Can the same project be submitted to more than one agency? A single project to more than one agency?
Okay, so that's a good question. The rules say, yes, of course you can do that. We advise you not to do that and to hone in on which of those two agencies is best aligned for your solution and has the best aligned topic, and interact with the program manager or topic author or TPOC. So the agencies can't even call the contact person at the agency for their SBIR and STTR programs. They can't even call them the same thing. So NIH calls them program managers, NSF calls them topic authors. I mean, DoD calls them technical points of contact. They're all the same role, It's just every agency has decided they want to have fun and make us all confused and make us work harder. So what we recommend is part of our assistance process with Innovation Partnership is coaching you to, if the agency allows, communication with the program manager, topic author, to coach you on having a conversation with them. So you can ask them questions and they can ask you questions. What we're trying to gain from that is that the program manager says, sounds like you have a project that is well aligned with topic X. I would encourage you to submit a proposal. Okay, so that's called doing your homework. And if you do your homework, realizing that you may have an application or solution that you want to submit to National Science Foundation, but also DoD is interested in it. What you're going to need to do is on the front page or somewhere in the abstract by the rules, you need to disclose to DoD. Let's say you submitted to NSF first, National Science Foundation first. Now you want to submit the exact same project to the DoD when they offer their opportunity. You need to disclose to DoD, we have already submitted this project for consideration under NSF funding. And vice versa. You would need to say to DoD, to NSF, we're planning to submit to the upcoming DoD opportunity. That way, between the two agencies, they can talk to each other and decide if NSF wants to fund it, or they say, we're not going to fund this because we think DoD will fund it, or DoD says, we're not going to fund this because it looks more like an NSF project. You're going to risk that. So it's really good to know in advance that you're specifically focused on the agency, that your planned project is best aligned with the topic that is offered. Okay. They would view it as you're trying to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. And that's really not advisable with SBIR and STTR. We want you to be keyed into understanding why you're submitting to the agency you're submitting your proposal to. And let's not pull any punches here. It's not a copy and paste, like, I wrote this for DoD, now I'm just gonna repurpose it, everything that I did, copy and paste it over and submit it to NSF. No, no, no. Again, there's distinct differences between the proposals and the structure of the proposals and the order in which the information needs to be laid out in your proposal. So you'd still be doing a full rewrite. Even if you submit to one agency and you want to submit the same proposal to another agency, you're still going to have to rewrite the whole thing because the agencies are different. It's not copy pastable. Okay, just as a heads up to let you know. Okay, what are types of SBIR and STTR projects? Apply existing technology to a new type of application or process, or develop an entirely new technology. The examples would be plastics, drug delivery process, new treatment or diagnostic, energy, renewables, nanotechnology applications, or application of artificial intelligence to something in a manner that makes it a different new product. I need to put a word in about AI. Everybody thinks that if you just slap AI onto something that already exists, that you're making it new and novel, and that's not the case. Artificial intelligence added to a solution needs to be intentful, purposeful, and useful. It's not just adding AI to something that's already been developed. So I'm not going to get more in the weeds on that. Some of the federal agencies have a hard time even defining what AI related to an SBIR project, if it's fundable, what that looks like. So we have a lot of folks that want to submit an AI related project, but the AI is not novel. The addition of it is not novel to what's being proposed. So I just want to caution folks on AI, since it's such a hot topic area. Just want to be careful with that. Other important things to consider. There are two main components that are important to remember with SBIR and STTR. Number one, reading and following instructions. I cannot emphasize enough that it's imperative that you read the entire solicitation or funding opportunity front to back to front, highlight it, make an outline from it, understand what you're reading, ask questions if you have them, make notes of questions so that you can ask somebody else all the questions that you have. So that's timing is important as well, but reading and following instructions trumps timing, so to speak. Timing, 4 to 6 weeks to complete the necessary registrations. Again, every agency has mandated registrations in order to be able to electronically submit your full federal proposal. Those need to be done well in advance. The system for awards management is the major registration for all agencies. And that registration confirmation can take upwards of 30 plus days, 30, 40, 60 days. So if you're looking at a deadline 2 months ahead or a month ahead, you're not going to have enough time to get your confirmation back. That's why timing is important to consider. When I'm working with innovation partnership clients, I like to have at least 6 months, 8 months to be working with that client before a deadline, not 2 weeks before. In fact, we can't help you if it's 2 weeks before a deadline. I've never seen in 20 plus years anybody that is geared up to wants to submit a proposal actually pull it together in 2 weeks and submit it successfully and win. I've never seen that happen. So you really need to be conscious of planning in advance for these opportunities or your interest in these opportunities so we can get the balls rolling and be on the alert. And you can start doing your registrations. Now, you may change your mind and say, I want to wait till the next one, or there may not be a topic that comes out in the opportunity that you're aligned with. Then we have to wait till the next round of solicitation or funding opportunity to come out from that agency. But we can never start things too early, okay? So please keep that in mind. And even our paid consultants that we interact with, I would be hard pressed. They do increase their premium costs the closer you get to a deadline, but I've actually had them tell me if it's 2 weeks before submission deadline, they won't even take your money because they have a reputation to uphold and they realize that they can't assist you win an award. It can't assist you to win an award in 2 weeks' time. So even if you're paying them thousands and thousands of dollars, they may say, sorry, we can't help you because it's 2 weeks before a deadline. Okay, I just want to keep folks apprised of that. Reading and following instructions and planning your timing are really important outside of the rules and regulations. Those are 2 really influencing factors. So what do you need to do? You need to get registrations and certifications. I already drilled on that a bit. Every agency has different ones. We have on our website a downloadable grid that has hyperlinks to the agency registration sites. One of the things I should note, if you Google for registration and click on it, be very careful. All of the federal registrations are free. You should not be paying for any federal registration or the registration renewal. Once you register in SAM, you're going to get inundated with spam and probably closer to your renewal date or your refresh date. You have to renew your SAM every year. And there are entities out there that are going to try to tell you, pay them $500, pay them $1,200, and they'll do your renewal for you, or they'll do your registrations for you. Please do not. They are free. These are all free. So I've had clients where they're on vacation, they Google the registration, they clicked on it, and it was a paid service. I had one client lose $1,500. Because they clicked on it and that's what the company was charging was $1,500, and they lost it because it was too late. Once I said, look, you know, it's in all of our emails that you should never be paying for these registrations. Okay, so back to the slide. Get your registrations and certifications. The agencies open solicitations. That's what we they're called solicitations, funding opportunities, funding announcements, and again, they're called a number of different things, but I use the general catch-all term solicitation to mean the same thing for all agencies. So it's their funding opportunity where they offer the opportunity and describe the topics that they're looking for solutions in. The business responds with the topic with their proposed project. Then the agency has either internal or external review panel evaluate the proposed project, and then the grants are awarded. Timing is very different. I always get that question. So if you submit, how long does it take after you submit to see your funds? And what's my response? It depends on the agency. NSF is a little backed up right now. I have some companies that submitted in 2022 that have not heard whether or not they received their award or if they've been declined an award. So NSF is taking a break right now, and they're going to try to get all their stuff together and get their awards out the door. DoD turns around relatively quickly. USDA turns around relatively quickly. But NIH and NSF take a little bit longer. At least that's my most recent experience. All right. So I'm going to pause here, see if there are any questions, and I'm going to go over our innovation partnership assistance.
Well, we got a pretty small group thus far. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to unmute yourselves. You can ask them out loud now.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Why not?
Good morning. I have a question.
Sure. Go right ahead.
So the SBTIR, I'm not sure if I abbreviated that correctly. The SBIR and STTR does what exactly? Because I missed that first part.
Oh, okay. They're both federal grant funding programs offered by 11 different federal agencies for technologically innovative solutions to topics that the agency chooses and releases throughout the course of a year's cycle. So it's grant funds to help move technology innovation solutions forward closer to commercialization.
And again, remember, if anyone has any questions regarding this presentation, we're going to be posting it to our YouTube channel within the next few days. The link for that site is up at the top of the chat. So please feel free, again, if you have any other question or you think, oh, I really would like to rewatch that certain point, please feel free to jump on there.
I have another question. Excuse me.
Sure. Go right ahead.
Yeah. So does that grant funding apply to transportation companies?
It can. Department of Transportation is offering SBIR, Small Business Innovation Research, offering agency. So right now, Department of Transportation has an open opportunity, or the opportunity, will be released this week or next week. And then there's about a couple weeks until the deadline. So Department of Transportation, if you're interested in transportation related services or solutions, Department of Defense also is pretty big on looking for transportation related solutions, whether it's logistics or fleet management or there are so many topics under DoD that deal with some form of transportation. It's hard to pull a bunch out, but obviously there's Department of Transportation that has an SBIR program, and then Department of Defense that has both SBIR and STTR opportunities.
And I'll register at sam.gov. Is that correct?
There are a number of different registrations. I would encourage you to go to our website and download. Let me see here if I can. Just a moment.
Sam.gov is one though, right? Because I'm familiar with that.
It is one, but there's more than one. Okay. And I have them listed on a downloadable grid with hyperlinks. on our website. It's under Federal Funding Resources and Links, and it says Guide to Agency Registrations. I can put a hyperlink to it after I'm finished sharing my presentation here, because it's a little messy to try to do that right at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing. I will put that in the hyperlink though, okay? When I get closer to the end here. I don't know why it reset my PowerPoint. Just give me a moment. All right. Okay. Any other questions? I'm going to review the Innovation Partnership Assistance now. And then when I'm able to, get off of that shared screen, I will put the Guide to Agency Registrations hyperlink in the chat for you. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to just move forward. The Innovation Partnership is a consortium of economic development and business assistance organizations and institutions of higher education located throughout Pennsylvania. Again, Innovation Partnership Services, since it was created by the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development and is currently been supported and funded by all of our partner organizations and members in Pennsylvania. We only assist companies with a physical address in Pennsylvania that are looking to submit SBIR and STTR proposals. So you can be incorporated in the state of Delaware for tax purposes. Almost all of our companies are, but you need to be registered to do business in Pennsylvania and have a Pennsylvania address that is not a PO box or a residential property. We want to, again, in an effort to set you up to do formal business with the federal government or any other entity, you need to have a formal business address. So that is important. So what do? We provide high-level pre-proposal SBIR, STTR technical reviews to clients. We provide opportunities for grant funding. If you go through our process, we have some small funds available to be awarded. We have an investment committee, and I'll go through the whole process here and tell you how we assist clients with SBIR and STTR. Again, we do training and education like this opportunity here. These are our many partner organizations located throughout Pennsylvania with multiple locations. We rely on our partner and member organizations, one, to refer and vet clients prior to sending over to the Innovation Partnership for SBIR and STTR assistance. So I have a colleague at almost every organization, location even, that is able to, they know how Innovation Partnership works and they know a bit about the SBIR and STTR programs. And so they're able to at least vet you as a client to make sure that the opportunity is appropriate for you to pursue. So what does our counseling involve? We assist with federal registrations. We have the Guide to Agency Registrations. As I noted, I'll put the hyperlink in the chat once this is done. Assistance with agency and topic matching, again, because I've been doing this for over 20 years, have a good sense of if you describe the planned project work that you're doing and you don't know what agency you would like to submit a proposal or research whether or not they'd be interested in your solution, we can assist you in doing that. We're not going to do it for you, but we will guide you in trying to help you determine which agency your project is best aligned to. Timing, there it is again. Our pre-proposal application process helps clients and ensures that they have enough time to prepare the proposal with the best chance of award. And we've created instruments that we use that are completed by each client that we help you finesse. And each of these instruments asks you to respond to individual prompts that hit at the core competency areas that are necessary for you to more fully include in your final federal proposal. So, in other words, we are not having you write your whole proposal and have us review and give feedback on it. We've developed what we call a pre-proposal instrument for both phase 1 and phase 2, that from our experience, we have these prompts that are really going to help you define what you're discussing about your planned project. And that way too, we can help you refine that discussion using the correct language demanded or asked for by the individual agency and the culture of that agency as well. So we help you prepare and have a conversation with a federal program manager, topic author, or TPOC to gain feedback prior to preparing the proposal. And this is an essential step towards a winning submission because, again, it looks like you've done your homework, which is important to do. Even as we get older and we're adults, we still have homework, whether it's at our job or for something like this. We've developed a mechanism, again, another instrument we call one-page company snapshot to assist the client in interacting with the PMs or TPOCs at the different agencies. And I will provide iterative feedback loops on this one-page company snapshot until it's in good shape. Once it's in good shape, you turn it into a PDF and you email the attachment to the program manager at the agency or the topic author and say, hey, I'd like a brief. I'd like to know if you have time for a brief call to discuss my interest in submitting a proposal for XYZ topic area of your solicitation. Attached is my one-page snapshot. Now, the one-page snapshot is going to cover who you are, what you do, what your planned innovation is, and what your project is about, and then a brief snapshot of your team members just to make sure they're qualified to execute the project work that you're doing. And that is sufficient. And it's one page, not 2 pages, not 10 pages, not 20 pages. It's called a one-page company snapshot, and it's meant to be 1 page. We need to respect the time of our program managers, topic authors at the federal level. And 1 page is short enough that they will appreciate your efforts to send them something that is distilled in that manner that's not going to waste their time or too much of their time. Okay, for NSF, they have their own mechanism and they call it the NSF project pitch. Now, that's an unfortunate name because it is not a pitch document like you are used to where you're making a PowerPoint of slides for an elevator pitch. They just called it the NSF project pitch. It's actually a series of 4 prompts that have excuse me, that have word limitations to each of the 4 prompts. You need to be succinct and direct and respond exactly to what they're asking for. So it's not a pitch like an investor pitch. We've annotated that document and we provide iterative feedback loops until you're ready to, until it's in good form, and then you can copy and paste from the pitch document into the NSF's online form. That's the preferred submission for the pitch, is through their online form. It says you can email them an attachment. Please don't do that. The variability of people's documents is wide and large. If you use the online form that they created for submitting the project pitch, there's no ability to get overly creative with your pitch and add bells, whistles, videos, and things like that, because the online form won't afford those, and they don't want any of that anyway. They want narrative response to the prompts, period. So we can help with that. And we have some other preliminary forms that we can help you put your best foot forward. We've been doing this a long time, and you can ask important questions up front to ensure that your time is used purposefully. Thank you. So our program specifics, we offer what is called in the industry phase 0 funding. So it's funding that comes before you win your SBIR and STTR award. We have what's called the micro voucher program. It's for phase 1 clients. We do the pre-proposal with iterative feedback loops, then it gets sent out to 2 technical subject matter experts in your innovation space who have sat on federal SBIR and STTR review panels. They're going to give critical feedback on how to improve certain areas and aspects of your plan proposal before you have submitted your proposal. So it's helpful in advance. It can shore up any holes that you have or any burning questions that peer may have in your technology innovation space, and make sure that you are addressing what the agency is looking for. That critical feedback from the technical reviewers is really the cornerstone of our program, because it points out things that you can improve upon before you submit your actual federal proposal. However, we then have an investment committee. It's comprised of my colleagues from our partner organizations. And for a micro voucher, we can award you up to $5,000 to work with a preferred grant writing professional, of which we have a pre-screened and curated list of folks from around the country who specialize in SBIR, STTR proposal assistance. It can be assistance relative to, does your narrative align with your budget? Is the budget following the rules for SBIR fund allocation? Can you help me submit the proposal through the portal of the agency? It can be all over the map, but we will, if you receive the award of the 5K, the reason it's a voucher is because it's paid directly to the preferred provider that you select. And in our pre-proposal, we ask you to select the provider that you plan to work with. This is a reimbursement, so we need proof of submission of your proposal before we cut the check to the provider for that $5,000. First-time applicants that have never used our program before and tend to be awarded the micro voucher, because usually, in most all instances, no client is not assisted with the help of a preferred provider, right? So it's always to your benefit to have that micro voucher. Micro grant is another option for award. Can be for up to $2,000 at the current time, and it's cash that goes directly to you, the company, to help defray your administrative time and effort in preparing and submitting your actual final proposal. We haven't really made a micro grant. It's been about 8 years, I think, since we awarded a micro grant. Somebody requested one. Your pre-proposal needs to be in really, really good shape. The technical reviewers need to have very little feedback. They say it's wonderful. Our investment committee needs to really be on board with it to receive the $2,000 micro grant. Again, most clients benefit from the voucher and working with the provider. That's why a majority of our phase 1 assistance awards are micro vouchers. Federal marketing assistance is a parallel program for your phase 2 submission. It's a different instrument. It has a greater emphasis on the commercialization component because in all federal SBIR phase 2s, SBIR STTR phase 2s, there is a larger emphasis on the commercialization component. It's a 2-year project, let's remember, and could be an award over, $1.2 million and up. So for that, they're looking for your understanding of the market, how you plan to commercialize what you've been working on in your project. As I noted previously, at the current time, we do not assist with direct to phase 2 or fast track submissions. There's also a travel and training award, which we haven't used much since the pandemic, strictly because nobody was traveling. So people have to get used to getting back out there, and that you can be awarded up to $1,000 for reimbursement of travel and training, any travel and training directly related to your federal funding proposal. And that's offered to those that receive the technical review through our process. A little bit about our IPart. If you go to the homepage for Innovation Partnership and scroll down out of your window view, just scroll down, you will see this statistic totals of what we've done so far with our assistance in helping SBIR and STTR proposers, again, in Pennsylvania. This is our website. what the landing page looks like. You may see something different over the next year because we need to update this website. So that'll be a fun thing I'll be working on with a contractor. And I say that sarcastically because if you've ever developed, worked on developing your website, it is not fun at all, at least in my mind. It takes forever and it's, you know, redundant after redundant. So approving something, reading it, approving it again. But it's time. We're going to do an update. On the Innovation Partnership website, this is where solicitations, like I told you, they can be called solicitations, they can be called broad agency announcements, they can be called FOAs, funding opportunity announcements, but we refer to them all as solicitations. So what you're going to find here on the right-hand side where it says agency, or left-hand side where it says agency and program, the light blue colored is a hyperlink to the actual solicitation for you to download, so you'll be able to read it. The release date is when they offer the opportunity and it hits the streets. The open date is the first day that they accept electronic submissions of proposals. The close date is the deadline for submitting your proposal. And the Innovation Partnership deadline is when we need to see our pre-proposal, whether for phase 1 or phase 2, when the draft is due. Client actually recommended that we put the dates down there as weeks so that folks, again, get a better understanding of what timeframes we're talking about. If all else fails and you don't know when our deadline would be, but you do know the federal deadline, 4 weeks before the federal deadline is when our pre-proposal deadline is. We need to see the first draft 2 weeks before that. So 6 weeks before the federal deadline, we need to see the first draft of our pre-proposal instrument so that we can provide the iterative feedback loops over the next 2 weeks and get it ready to send out to technical reviewers at the 4 week before the federal deadline. 4 weeks before that is when our submission for technical review deadline is. It takes 1 week for the technical reviewers to get their feedback. It takes 1 week for the investment committee to meet, which leaves 2 short weeks before your federal submission deadline to work with your preferred provider. I know it doesn't sound like a lot of time, but we can do it sooner rather than later. So if you want to submit, you know, start working on your pre-proposal 3 months before a federal deadline, love it. 6 months, love it. Okay, 2 weeks, not doable. 4 weeks, hedgy. So again, you want to be in touch with me to map out what the timing looks like. So we're not behind the 8 ball and you're not rushed and you get the best experience possible using our program. Here again is the website, useful links. This is where you will find the downloadable guide to agency registrations, IPart programs, federal funding resources and links, and right here is the guide to agency registrations. So that's where it is. I knew I had it but I don't have the website listed, the web link to that hyperlink. But if you'd like to surf there, you're more than welcome to download the guide to agency registrations. And I have to say it again, you should never be paying for any of these registrations. All right, and that would be that. There's my contact information, and I'm gonna stop sharing this so that I can go back and find that hyperlink for the guide to agency registrations and throw it into the chat box for you.
Kelly, I actually got it up there already.
Oh, excellent.
It's
Excellent. Thank you so much. That's terrific, Beth. You're on top of it.
Does anyone else have any questions today for Kelly? Now would be, you can feel free to unmute yourself. And if not, allow me to extend my thanks, Kelly. This was a wonderful presentation, very informative. Again, if anyone has any questions after the end of this webinar, Kelly's contact information is at the top of the chat, as is the link to the YouTube page that you can view this presentation at a later date, as well as our Apex website. Again, we are all here to help our small businesses across the Commonwealth thrive.